My name is Trevor King, and I work with Andrew on his Facebook, his Twitter, and on the webinars and so on. So we have some exciting things planned for you over the next few months, and this is the first one tonight. Thank you for joining us. I know some of you are here in all sorts of different time zones, and I know it's late for some of you, and we appreciate you making the effort to be here. So without any further ado, I'm in Ireland, as I say. Hopefully, I've got Andrew Saul somewhere online in Rochester, New York. So let's see. Andrew, are you there?
I'm right here, Trevor, and thank you for the introduction. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the first webinar. I want to get right to work because that's why you're here. And let's take a look at these 6 proven ways to improve your health. The first is vitamin C. Now, those of you that have been following my website and my books and have watched Food Matters know that I once in a while recommend that people take more vitamin C than the RDA. Oh my, would have thought that is, huh? The fact of the matter is the use of tens of thousands of milligrams of vitamin C per day has been well established. And we're talking 50 or 60 years of clinical evidence from medical doctors who are medically trained who walked away from medicines in favor of using vitamin C therapy. Now, I don't think we should ignore research or ignore the news media, but the fact is, if you really want to know something, my father used to say to me, go to the organ grinder, not the monkey. Let's go to the doctors that actually used huge doses of vitamin C, and we will find that the use of tens of thousands of milligrams of vitamin C per day may be the most unacknowledged successful clinical research in medicine. Now, the history of vitamin C therapy goes back to 1935 when a full professor of biochemistry at Columbia University, Klaus Jungblut, first published on vitamin C for the prevention and treatment of polio. This is especially interesting because in 1935, the United States had a president in office, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who had polio. He had been afflicted earlier, and he was paralyzed. He had to walk with assistance and with a brace and canes. So this is particularly important to realize that way back in 1935, a full professor of biochemistry at one of the great universities had already shown that vitamin C could help prevent and treat polio. The same year, Jungblut showed that vitamin C inactivated diphtheria toxin. Please be sure to understand that this is long before vaccinations were available for polio and for other diseases, so it was all the more important that this information got out. In 1937, Jungblut demonstrated that vitamin C inactivated tetanus toxin. And then, while the Second World War was still going on, Frederick Robert Klenner, a United States medical doctor in North Carolina, Duke University Medical School graduate, and a board-certified chest specialist, actually demonstrated that Jungblut was right, and Klenner used higher doses of vitamin C, much higher than Jungblut. And on top of that, because he was a chest specialist, I guess it figures that he figured if it's good against one virus, it might be good against another. Klenner then reported 41 cured cases of viral pneumonia with vitamin C. And as it says in the slide, by 1949, he was announcing that he had reversed or at least arrested polio in a number of cases. He reported this information at a meeting of the American Medical Association. My understanding is he did not get any questions. By 1946 now, William J. McCormick, yet another medical doctor in Toronto, Canada, showed how vitamin C prevents and cures kidney stones. It's always fun when people say, does vitamin C cause a kidney stone? And the answer is, actually, it's been used since 1946 to prevent kidney stones and to dissolve them. Dr. McCormick, by 1957, had also shown that vitamin C prevents cardiovascular disease. Now, as soon as we link things like kidney stones, polio, diphtheria, tetanus, cardiovascular disease all together with one vitamin, it starts to sound a little strange, and this is where people have some difficulty. Vitamin C is good for too many things. That's a public relations problem. It's not a scientific problem. Almost any doctor will tell you that there's a lot of uses for antibiotics. Almost any doctor will tell you that there's quite a few uses for prednisone. It's also true that there's quite a few uses for vitamin C if you give high enough doses. Now it gets even better because in the 1960s, American physician Robert Fulton Cathcart III, again a medical doctor, out in California, USA, was treating influenza, pneumonia, hepatitis, and eventually, in the 1980s and 90s, he would be treating AIDS. What could be a more powerful demonstration of an antiviral than that? In the 1970s, Ewan Cameron, a medical doctor in Scotland, and Hugh Reardon, an American medical doctor in Kansas, had successfully used huge doses of vitamin C against cancer. And this is an intravenous application and also oral application of vitamin C. We've just said a mouthful, and we're going to talk more about vitamin C later on because I know you have a lot of questions. But here's the key point. Real doctors, doctors of medicine, highly qualified physicians, have been using vitamin C to cure disease since 1935. If your doctor is not yet using vitamin C, you've got to ask yourself, why is that? The second proven way to improve your health is a plant-based diet. Now, a plant-based diet does not have to be strictly vegetarian. It does not have to be vegan. A vegan diet is where you have no animal products. A vegetarian diet, as is generally understood, is usually an ovo-lacto vegetarian diet, which allows eggs and dairy products. And then there's some people that would eat fish but would not eat chicken. There's some that would eat chicken but would not eat beef or pork. There are many different ways of describing vegetarianism. I prefer to not use that term. I'm not a vegetarian. I raised my children ovo-lacto vegetarian. It was lots of fun at Thanksgiving because we would show up and the in-laws and the outlaws would say, "We don't know what to feed you people. We don't know what to feed you people." We said, "Look, put it on the table. We'll eat what we like." So we would have everything except the turkey. No big hardship. We'd have everything else. If you go to a plant-based diet, you're going to have such an improvement in your health that you're not going to believe it. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to be automatically on a low-fat diet. So you're going to lose weight. If you're overweight, you'll lose weight. You don't have to diet. If you're on a plant-based diet, you can eat all you want. That's because vegetarian or plant-based diets are very high in fiber, and as the slide shows, they're also nutrient-dense. And if you have a lot of plant-based food, you're going to feel better. You're not going to need any laxatives, that's for sure. You're also going to save money. You're also going to feel better. You're going to be healthier. If you have a garden, it's dirt cheap to be on a plant-based diet. I have a relatively small lot. My entire backyard is an organic garden. From the house to the barn is a nice big organic garden. Maybe you don't have that much land. You can do window boxes. You can do sprouting inside. You can perhaps have a cooperative garden, a community garden. If you don't have one, you perhaps could start one. It's happening all over. Growing your own food is cheap. It's also organic. You don't need any pesticides. I simply take spiders out from my basement, let them go in the garden. They do the work for me. Doesn't cost a thing, better for the environment. By the way, people are wondering where all the honeybees have gone to. They're right out back. Come on over and see them. If you stop using insecticides, the honeybees come back. If you use insect killers, you tend to kill honeybees. Even if you have to buy your plant-based diet food at the supermarket, it's still cheaper than being sick. It's also ethically sound. Did you know that over 10 billion animals annually are killed for food just in the United States? If everyone cut their meat intake down by only 10%, we'd save 1 billion animal lives a year. If everybody cut their meat intake in half, we'd save 5 billion animal lives a year. And we would also provide, by doing so, health care for everybody. If we cut down our meat intake, we're going to lower our health care costs. The third thing to do, if you really want to get well, and if you want a healthy family, is no junk food. My mentor and colleague, Dr. Abram Hoffer, used to lean over and talk to children, and he would lean over to them and he'd say, "No junk." And Abram said there was never a child at any age that failed to understand exactly what he meant. So I don't have to define it. If kids know what junk food is, certainly you do. A person said to me the other day, these fast food restaurants should stop selling the hamburgers and the fries and all that. And I said, well, why don't you just stop buying them? If you reduce or eliminate junk food, you automatically reduce your sugar intake. Your dentist will like that. You're going to like it. You're going to feel better. Sugar is not your friend. Whatever your health ailment is, I guarantee sugar will make it worse. If you don't have junk food, you automatically reduce your chemical additive intake. You don't have as many artificial colors and other harmful food additives because junk food is full of them. It's one of the reasons we call it junk food. If you eliminate junk food, you will find that supposedly hyperactive people, especially children, are just not so hyperactive anymore. For those who celebrate Halloween, your chance is coming. Do what I used to do. Remember, I'm not a physician. My background is in education, not medication. The day after Halloween, unless it was a Saturday or a Sunday, was always an experience for a teacher because you'd have sugared up, artificially color-laced kids running all over the place, or trying to. If you remove junk food, you remove the artificial colors pretty much, and if you remove junk food, you remove a lot of sugar. You also reduce your fat intake, and once again, you're going to lose weight. Why is this important? Because more kids than ever are overweight, more adults than ever are overweight, and we don't want it to happen to you. When I was a student in Australia, the first day of classes in the big lecture hall, the person speaking said, look to your left, look to your right, they're both going to fail. Well, I tell you, look to your left, look to your right, one's going to get cancer and the other's going to get heart disease. Do you really want to go that way? Change now while you have the opportunity. Reducing your fat intake is good. Reducing your food expenses is also good. Junk food is not cheap. Prepared packaged food, so-called convenience food, may be convenient, but it's expensive. And when you cut out junk food, you send an unmistakable message to the food industry. In a nice way, you're telling them what they can do with their products. Proven method number 4, niacin. I get lots of questions on niacin. We will come back to that during the Q&A session. Niacin is the cheapest, the safest, and the most effective way to lower triglycerides. It is also the cheapest, safest, and most effective way to lower bad LDL cholesterol. There's just no question about this. The former president of the American College of Cardiologists actually said in the New York Times, quote, niacin is really it, nothing else comes close. Niacin is also a very good way to raise HDL. I tried this experiment on myself. A number of years ago, I noticed that my cholesterol was not quite as good as it could be. LDL was a little on the high side, HDL was a little on the low side. So I figured, if niacin is good enough for Abram Hoffer, it's good enough for me. I started taking niacin, and it was a flip-flop. HDL went up nicely, LDL went down, triglycerides went way down, and not only that, I felt better. And the reason I felt better is because niacin is so good for your mental health. How you feel is part of your body. Your mind is part of your body, and your brain is fed by the same nutrients that the rest of your body gets. So niacin is the cheapest, safest, and most effective way to treat schizophrenia, psychosis, depression, obsessive compulsive disorder, bipolar disorder, anxiety, and believe it or not, even osteoarthritis. Once again, niacin is too good for too many things. Consider this concept. The reason one nutrient can cure so many diseases is because a lack of that nutrient can cause so many diseases. By the way, the work on arthritis was done back in the late 1930s and early 1940s by Dr. William J. Kaufman, a medical doctor and PhD in Connecticut, USA. The fifth proven way to improve your health is to take a multivitamin with every meal. Yes, with every meal. I taught courses in 2 state penitentiaries, and I told the inmates in class that if they could, try to get a multivitamin. It was not provided, of course, in the prison food regimen, but they could buy them at the PX, the commissary. So I suggested they take a multivitamin with every meal. I remember inmates telling me that that alone made them feel better, that and cutting down on sugar. But for everyone else, there's just no excuse at all. Multivitamins are cheap, they're widely available, it's the biggest health bargain on the planet. In my opinion, the importance of multivitamins cannot be overstated. Everyone can afford multivitamins from any big box discount store, and the funny thing is, taking vitamin supplements is actually cheaper than eating right. Yes, we should eat right, but some folks are really strapped for cash. They don't have much money. And it's good to know that even a cheap multivitamin, even a crummy one, even the candy, gummy bear, chewable, tasty ones, are better than none whatsoever. Have a multi with every meal. Any brand is better than nothing. I have no financial connection with any company, product line, or distribution or sales network in the health products industry, nor do I endorse or sell any products. You know that I'm an author. Authors sell their books. Yes, I do sell those. But any brand is better than nothing. High potency is better than that. And a natural high potency vitamin is better still. When you pick a vitamin out, be sure to look for natural vitamin E, not synthetic. Synthetic vitamin E will be DL, that's Doug Larry, or dextrolevo alpha tocopherol. You want to get the D form, which is more natural. Better still is to get mixed tocopherols, and better still is to get the tocopherols and tocotrienols as well. When you buy a multivitamin, avoid any multi that contains ferrous sulfate iron. It can cause upset stomach. Some people take a multi and say it disagrees with them, are actually reacting to the ferrous sulfate. Go for ferrous gluconate, ferrous fumarate, or carbonyl iron forms instead. Or you can get a multi without any iron at all. And here's your sixth and possibly slightly surprising proven way to get your health to an optimal level. Read. There's no way around it. You're going to have to read if you want to learn. Knowledge is power, knowledge is health, and I have a couple hints. First of all, on the internet, a good source of information. Yes, it's the information superhighway. It's also the information landfill. So there's a lot of stuff out there that's borderline or just simply untrue. Beware of websites that have a product for sale. Such sites have an essential and inescapable vested interest in selling their products. How can you expect otherwise? You may have to look very carefully to find the product affiliation within a website, but it's probably there. Also beware of so-called consumer protection websites that say, you don't need supplements, or supplements are harmful, or natural healing is unscientific. Such information is out of date by decades and will not stand up to clinical experience. My personal take on consumer protection websites that tell you not to read something is to immediately make a point to go and read it. I have my final slide here just to give you an idea of where I'm coming from. My website is dryourself.com. It is large, non-commercial, and peer-reviewed. That means that there are actual physicians that practice nutritional therapy who look over my website for accuracy, and also research scientists who actually are researching vitamins in higher doses. They are my review panel. dryourself.com has a link to the Orthomolecular Medicine News Service. This is a peer-reviewed news feed. It is free. There's an archive of over 180 issues, again, all free for easy access. I'd like to say again, before we go into the Q&A, that I am not a physician, and I'm not trying to take the place of one. I am not prescribing, I am describing. We are learning about nutrition, and we're learning about what real doctors did to help their patients.
Thank you, Andrew. Let me step in there for 1 second. Thank you for sticking with us. That was very interesting to me as much as to you. And I'm going to hand back to Andrew for the section on the Q&A.
Right. We got a lot of questions, and that's good. We're not going to be able to get to all of them. That perhaps is a disappointment. But I found that everybody's questions are important, and somebody else's question might come pretty close to a question that you had and maybe didn't think to ask. So let's make the most of it. One question is, what do you recommend that people consider when making a supplement purchase? I often find companies that are not particularly responsive when asked about the source or production methods of their supplements. It's a good question. I would write to any supplement company that I'm going to deal with, and I would ask them what's in there. I'd ask them for a full product disclosure of any product I was interested in and see what they send back. My feeling is that a good company will be happy to tell you what's in their product, and if they don't want to tell you, maybe there's a reason. I heard that pills are harder to digest the older a person is, says this viewer. Can a vitamin pill pass through a person without being processed? Yes. For this reason, I would normally suggest that you avoid sustained release preparations because some of them are in a very hard matrix and they gradually break down. It's a good idea in theory, but in folks, especially older folks, with weaker digestions, those tablets can go right through and out the other end without any benefit. Generally speaking, capsules dissolve better than tablets, but for most people, tablets dissolve just fine. You can also crush the tablet to improve absorption, but the taste is awful. Vitamins are tableted for a reason. This viewer writes that they have a friend that's been hospitalized twice in the last year for blood clots and occlusions in the leg. They had surgery 2 years ago and an artificial bypass in that leg. They're going to be asking the surgeon to talk with them about a trial therapy of vitamin therapy. And the vitamin they're particularly looking at is vitamin E, as in Edward. This is based on the work of Wilfred and Evan Shute, doctors up in London, Ontario, not far from Toronto, who treated over 35,000 patients with megadoses of vitamin E. Vitamin E has a Coumadin-like effect, and if a person is on Coumadin, as this reader indicates their friend is, you have to use some intelligent compromise. If you're on a drug and you want to use a vitamin instead, the smart thing to do is go right back to the doctor that put you on the drug and say, Doc, I would like a gradual reduction dosage schedule for this drug. I'd like to phase in vitamin therapy and better nutrition, and I'd like to phase out the drug. But I'm willing to come in for monitoring, and I'm willing to do it gradually. Most doctors will play ball with you under those terms. There are some that won't. I wrote a book called Fire Your Doctor, which you can take a look at if you wish. Another book called Doctor Yourself, and now you know why those titles are the way they are. So the reader wants to know, how do you do the drug reduction dosage? And the answer is, that's between you and your medical physician. Remember, I'm not a physician. I don't have training in medicine, not go to medical school, and I am not knowledgeable to tell you what to do with the drug that your physician prescribed. But I can tell you this. Doctors Wilford and Evan Shute were also medical doctors, and they took thousands of people off of medication and put them on vitamin E instead. It can be done. Are packaged green drink mixes as good as fresh vegetable juicing? Nope. Are they better than nothing? Yes. Are they better than having junk food and no greens at all? Absolutely. But the best thing is fresh from your garden or from the organic farmer or from the roadside stand, wherever you can get your produce. Fresh is best. A viewer wants to know, the high oxalate content in leafy greens mean that juicing these greens can be bad for you? The answer is no. It's singularly difficult to hurt yourself with produce. Vegetables are our friends. They are safe. Oxalate is found in beets. Oxalate is found in rhubarb and asparagus and a number of foods. Well, the reason people are worried is because calcium oxalate kidney stones are obviously made out of oxalate. But remember what I said earlier about vitamin C? Vitamin C inhibits the formation of a calcium oxalate bond. It's almost as if nature knows what it's doing. So if vitamin C inhibits the formation of a calcium oxalate bond, if you have vitamin C, this is one of the ways that vitamin C prevents kidney stones. So eat your greens, drink your greens, juice them fresh, and enjoy yourself. Do I think juicing's a good idea? Yes. Why didn't I include it in my 6 ways? Because you already knew that juicing's a good idea. This person wants to know about vitamin B12. They've been getting a shot every month since the doctor prescribed B12 for them some years ago, but now the pharmacist says, for some reason, that they can't fulfill the prescription anymore for injectable vitamin B12. So this viewer wants to know, can I take 1,000 micrograms of vitamin B12 every day? And should I divide the dose? The answer is yes, you can take B12 orally. No, you don't have to divide the dose. You can if you want to. It's a good idea with water-soluble vitamins, the B vitamins, and also vitamin C. But with B12, the amount you're taking is very, very small. 1,000 micrograms is actually 1,000th of a milligram, and a milligram is 1,000th of a quarter teaspoon. So this is actually a pretty small amount. 1,000 micrograms is 1 milligram, if you work it out. And you can buy supplements that are even smaller than that. Absorption of B12 is best by injection, but obviously that has its drawbacks. Orally, vitamin B12 absorption is good, but is poorer as you get older, and it's poorer in males than females. Some people can take B12 and not absorb it very well. You also make vitamin B12 in your intestine. In the normal course of eating a plant-based diet, you have friendly bacteria that make B12 for you. B12 is also found in a lot of foods. A novel way of taking vitamin B12 is intranasally, making a paste out of a crushed B12 tablet and applying that carefully and gently just inside the nostril. You can also get a prescription for B12 gel. It used to be over the counter, and although it's perfectly safe, it was made a prescription item. Now, the idea of putting B12 in your nose obviously has to be taken with the following common sense caution. When my son was little, I told him not to put a bean in his nose. And by golly, I got a call later that afternoon that the 4-year-old had put a bean in his nose. So please don't take this as license to put things into your nostrils. Talk to your doctor, take a look and see about intranasal absorption. It sounds a little odd, but the fact is, if your B12 absorption is poor, it's a good answer. How do you know your B12 absorption is poor? Well, you can guess. If your doctor prescribed an injection of B12, you can be pretty sure that you need it. Food binging. I'm trying to cut down on sugar and other cravings, but I still have them. I take niacin, it helps my mood, but I still crave food. Well, that's a craving that a whole lot of us have. Interestingly enough, there was a study done on people that craved cigarettes. And this paper was written up in Drug and Alcohol Dependence, a journal that I think was published in New York State some years ago, about 20 years ago. And they found that when people took vitamin C before having a cigarette, it helped them cut down on smoking. And they controlled the study pretty well, and they noticed that the more C people took, the fewer cigarettes they smoked. And some people got off cigarettes entirely just by taking more vitamin C. Perhaps it was the placebo effect. Oh, who cares? It worked. The other thing they noticed was that the people that stopped smoking did not gain weight. And this was unusual because it's very common for people who stop smoking to gain weight. Turns out vitamin C kind of inhibits the appetite a little bit. Not a lot, but a little. So if you're troubled with food cravings, taking larger doses of vitamin C might perhaps help you with that. But I think that the best solution to food cravings is to just go and have a big glass of fresh vegetable juice. And if you're still hungry, have another. Now I can down 1 3/4 quarts of vegetable juice at one sitting. My daughter can put down a 16-ounce glass of vegetable juice in 4 seconds. She claims it's 3 seconds, but it's 4. When my kids were little, they were raised juicing. If you want to have something good for you, get something that's from the garden. Juice it, have it as salad, have it as soup, steam it, just go that way. If you have a food craving, just eat good food. Don't have any junk food in the house. That helps a lot. Question about liposomal vitamin C. Is it as good as an intravenous vitamin C infusion? The answer is no, but it is very good. The liposomal vitamin C is well absorbed and well retained. It's also more costly than regular vitamin C, and it's much more expensive than simple ascorbic acid. A whole lot of people have said, well, what's the story here on ascorbic acid? Is that really vitamin C? And the answer is yes, it is. Now, I've been annoying people with this answer for 38 years. So if you're shutting off your computer or telling your friends that this Saul guy's out of his tree, you're in a long line of people that have already done it. What I would like to emphasize is almost all of the research going back decades on high doses of vitamin C curing diseases has been with ascorbic acid. C6H8O6. It's 4 hydrogens smaller than a glucose. It's very well absorbed. Plain old ascorbic acid will work. Does this mean you should ignore the vitamin C complex, as it is sometimes called? Of course not. Should you eat fruits and vegetables that are high in bioflavonoids? Of course you should. Should you have fresh fruit and veggies? Yes. Should you have vitamin C as well? Yes. Should you do both? Yes. Is that extra work? Yes. Ask yourself this question. How long do you want to live? Abram Hoffer made it to 91, Linus Pauling to 93, Norman W. Walker somewhere around 99, Jack LaLanne was 96, and I am hopeful that you and I will be sitting on a porch rocking in our chairs together in another 50 years when I'm 108. Here's a very nice comment from someone who said, I am very thankful that you took the time to put this information together. I have been using your website since you had dark hair. Their question is intravenous vitamin C helpful outside the hospital? The answer is yes, of course it is. You can get intravenous vitamin C as an outpatient. There are a few doctors that maintain clinics where they do chelation or intravenous vitamin C therapy. I know what you're thinking. Why doesn't he have a list of these doctors? And the answer is because that's what the internet is for. Most physicians have a website. If they don't, they should. If you search the internet, you can find pretty much anything. I mean, you found me, didn't you? So if you want to know what doctors use intravenous vitamin C, go and look. There's lots of natural health physician search engines and directories. You really can find this yourself. Oral doses of vitamin C, taken very, very frequently, come fairly close to intravenous vitamin C effectiveness. When I had viral pneumonia years ago, which is what happens to you when you don't follow the rules, I had a high fever and a bad cough. I was sick as a dog. I had a good friend who's an internist, and he sent me home with some codeine cough medicine and an antibiotic. I said to him, well, you told me it was viral pneumonia. He said, yes. So I said, what's with the antibiotic? He said, oh, that's for a secondary infection in case you get one. In case you get a bacterial infection, we'll have this. And I thought, well, I don't want to overuse antibiotics, so I guess I won't take the antibiotic. And he didn't have anything for the viral pneumonia specifically. The codeine cough medicine, obviously, was to help me sleep and calm the cough. On the other hand, the codeine cough medicine put me in la-la land for 48 hours, and I was higher than a kite. It seemed to me that it was high time to try what Dr. Frederick Robert Klenner, a board-certified chest physician, and what Dr. Robert F. Cathcart, a board-certified orthopedic surgeon, had to say about high doses of vitamin C. So I decided to get to bowel tolerance of vitamin C. Now, bowel tolerance means exactly what you think it means. You take enough C to be symptom-free. A lot of you have asked this question, so I'm giving you an answer without having read the question. How much vitamin C do I need when I'm sick? And the answer is, I don't know, but your body does. So you take enough C to be symptom-free, whatever the amount might be. That is the key. There's your mnemonic. There's your memory device. There's your corny jingle. If you like tattoos, have that one put on your wrist. It'll come in handy. So vitamin C at saturation levels is very, very effective. And orally, you can indeed bring your blood level of vitamin C up very high. There are some natural health writers and speakers who are, in my opinion, excellent sources of information who are mistaken in saying that you can only absorb a few hundred milligrams of vitamin C a day. That is simply not true. It depends how sick you are. A dry sponge holds more milk. The sicker you are, the more vitamin C you will hold. So back to my story with pneumonia. I'm sitting there playing Scrabble with a family member, and I decided I would take enough vitamin C to get to saturation, and that turned out to be 2,000 milligrams of vitamin C every 6 minutes. I think that's about 20,000 milligrams an hour. In 3 hours and 60,000 milligrams into the trial, my fever came down 3 degrees and my cough stopped. 3 hours, 60,000 milligrams of vitamin C. No bowel tolerance. Now, if you're in good health and you take 60,000 milligrams of vitamin C, you better have an express lane ready for the bathroom. Why is it when someone has the flu or pneumonia that they can hold 120, 130, 150,000 milligrams of vitamin C a day, but when they're healthy, they might only need a few thousand? It's simply because the body must be using it. Common question. A lot of you have asked this, so I want to get to it right away. With vitamin C, when I take a lot of it on an empty stomach, they write, I have abdominal distress. And the answer is yes. So don't do that. Don't take a lot of vitamin C on an empty stomach unless you buffer the vitamin C. Calcium ascorbate is one way. You can buy buffered vitamin C. That's ascorbic acid mixed with a powdered calcium supplement. Other ways to buffer vitamin C are take it with lots of liquid. That will reduce the acidity. Take it with food, a snack. That will reduce the acidity. I'd like to emphasize that the acidity of vitamin C is actually far, far weaker than your stomach acid. Your stomach acid is about 50 to 75 times stronger than vitamin C. If you can drink a glass of orange juice or a can of Coca-Cola, vitamin C should not bother your stomach at all. But some people are very sensitive. They need buffered C, or they need a buffering substance, water or food. Calcium ascorbate is buffered. The liposomal vitamin C is non-acidic. Sodium ascorbate is also non-acidic. Magnesium ascorbate is harder to find. That is also non-acidic. Ascorbic acid will work for most people, but don't take a lot of it on an empty stomach. This is tricky, and experience will show you how to do it. If you're uncomfortable, back off. Take enough C to be symptom-free. Take enough to feel better, but not so much as to experience the gastric distress. Now, bowel tolerance is when you get gassy, when the stomach starts to rumble, the intestines start to rumble a little bit. That's pretty close to bowel tolerance. It's not necessary to reach actual loose stool to reach saturation. You can tell that it's coming. Children can do this. My children knew how to take vitamin C on their own when they were 8 or 9. You might be thinking, oh my, there's an irresponsible parent. No, it isn't. Dr. Frederick Robert Klenner said that vitamin C is the safest substance available for the physician. Had a neighbor, their child got into the chewable vitamin C bottle, and the neighbor's 5-year-old downed about 30 vitamin C tablets. And the mother came over and said to me, because I was that parent that gave his kids vitamin C, and said, he took all this vitamin C, will it hurt him? And I said, well, probably not. How much did he take? She said, oh, 30 tablets. And I said, well, did he get loose stool? What, did he have loose bowels or an upset stomach? She said, no. But his asthma went away. We also have a question from readers on asthma. Yes, here we go again. Not only is vitamin C an antiviral and an antitoxin, it's also an antihistamine. And it's a really good antihistamine. Vitamin C is such a good antihistamine that, to my astonishment, a case that I know well involving a person with a bee sting allergy was resolved with 100,000 milligrams of vitamin C in about a 12-hour period. Now, this person, unbeknownst to me, had the allergy and also decided not to use their allergy medication and instead megadosed on vitamin C. I would not recommend that. The bee sting allergy is very serious. But I will tell you what happened because it's the truth. This person took 20,000 milligrams of vitamin C the first hour, kind of like I did with the viral pneumonia, and then took another 80,000 by evening for a total of 100,000 milligrams. They had no swelling. They couldn't even see where the bee had stung them. This is a measure of how good an antihistamine vitamin C is. I have questions from you on niacin. Sometimes when you take niacin, you not only have the flush, which you should expect. Anyone taking niacin should expect to have that hot flash. It's harmless, and it's almost inevitable unless you take no-flush niacin. No-flush niacin is usually inositol hexaniacinate. There are other forms, but the one I just mentioned with the $4 name, inositol hexaniacinate, is widely available at health food stores and discount stores. It's slightly more expensive than regular niacin, doesn't work quite as well, but it almost never causes a flush. For those who take niacin and notice a histamine reaction, a couple people said that they found it was a little difficult to breathe, or they had other symptoms after they took a large dose of niacin and had never taken it before. Those folks need to know that what's happening with niacin is that niacin actually flushes histamine out of your cells. Now, that's a good thing to a point, but if you take too much niacin too soon, the reaction can be pretty dramatic. Not life-threatening, but dramatic and uncomfortable. Dr. Abram Hoffer would give vitamin C 10,000 milligrams along with the niacin. Vitamin C's antihistamine effect helps to work well with niacin's histamine-releasing effect. Remember, if you have a history of problems in this area, talk to your doctor, talk to your health provider before you start on this. Just because the book's called Fire Your Doctor and just because the website's called Doctor Yourself doesn't mean that I don't want you to go to doctors. I know it sounds that way, and I act like that, but the truth is I do want you to go to your doctor. I just don't want you to have to go. See, natural health is not about avoiding doctors. It's about not needing them. But there's something that they can do for us that we need. They can monitor our progress. They have the technology, the tools, and the training so you can see how you're doing. Don't you want to know how you're doing? I go to my doctor. We have an agreement. She says, any way you stay well is fine with me. And I say, okay. She backs me up on what I do. I make her look good. Everybody's happy. The way to do this is to remember that your doctor works for you, not the other way around. The doctor is your employee, your contractor. And if you wonder about that, if that makes you feel a little fluffy, consider this thought. You can always tell who the employee is. They're the one that's getting paid. One person asked the question, I enjoy the movie Food Matters, I purchased your books, and I love what you're doing. How can I get you to my city to do a seminar? And the answer is, well, you probably can't. Because I prefer to not have to travel too much. And when Trevor said, hey, come on over, let's have you do a tour of Europe and the UK, I said, well, that's a nice idea. Could we use technology instead? And he said, yes, and that's why we have this webinar. Now, I realize the magic of my personal presence is something that you would enjoy very much, and I can't autograph books by the internet. Maybe as time goes on, I will rethink my plan in terms of touring. After all, the Rolling Stones still do, and they're older than I am. They're a lot older than I am. Makes you think, doesn't it? I think the Stones just aren't as good without Bill Wyman, though. No offense to this wonderful rock group. You'd never guess that I taught junior high school, did you? Is our government trying to ban intravenous vitamin C therapy for cancer? No, they are not. They don't have to. They already did. Anyone who advertises or promotes or does a natural therapy for cancer in the United States, and for that matter the UK, is already breaking the law. The laws are very strict about this. They're repressively strict. They are erroneously strict, but the laws are what they are. In the United States, land of the free, home of the brave, the cauldron of democracy, if you will, people have to go to Mexico in order to get natural treatment for cancer. And a number of physicians, U.S. physicians, have clinics in Mexico simply because they're not allowed to do their work over here. Can nutrition help with bipolar disorder? Yes. We talked about niacin earlier, and I want to emphasize, because this can't be said too many times, when you take niacin, you're going to have a flush, unless you take the no flush form. Be ready for it. Some people like the flush. Now, where I live, up in New York State, just south of Toronto, across Lake Ontario, being warm from a niacin flush is a positive boon. But for those of you that live in warmer climates or don't like that warm feeling, the no flush may be for you. Autoimmune diseases. We get a lot of questions about that. Medical science doesn't know what to do with autoimmune diseases, and I don't have the easy answer either. But I can tell you that Dr. Frederick Robert Kleiner, remember him, was treating multiple sclerosis with very high doses of vitamins, notably thiamine, vitamin B1, and other vitamins in massive doses back in the 1950s. This is 60 years ago. Dr. Kleiner and his multiple sclerosis protocol are online. Dr. Kleiner died years ago, but the protocol is online, and I think I also have it at dryourself.com. So if you want to know more about the vitamin treatment for autoimmune diseases, you're going to have to do some reading. Very, very high doses of vitamins have been shown to arrest MS and to reverse it. Recent research, which you may not have heard about, showed that niacin, or niacinamide, can stop and reverse the animal equivalent of multiple sclerosis. This work was done in rodents. The Orthomolecular Medicine News Service did a press release on this a few years ago. The Orthomolecular Medicine News Service has an archive. You can go to that archive and read about this. So niacin and thiamine almost certainly are involved in stopping MS and perhaps autoimmune diseases in general. Dr. Quenner had a very wise saying. He said that doctors should use vitamin therapy while they're pondering the diagnosis. Dr. Roger Williams, the discoverer of one of the B vitamins, pantothenic acid, said, "When in doubt, use nutrition first." I had a client years ago that I was consulting with in cooperation with the family and the physician. Sometimes doctors would send people to me for a consult, and this particular person had MS and was in a wheelchair. His full-time registered nurse wheeled him in. She was extremely interested in natural therapies and was probably the reason that we were getting together in the first place. So I described Dr. Quenner's protocol of the high-dose vitamins and also the value of fresh raw vegetable juices. This is not because I think that this is the sure cure for MS. It's because Dr. Quenner thought it was the cure for MS. And Dr. Max Gerson thought it was the cure for MS and other diseases. So to make a long story wonderful and short, the fellow started drinking vegetable juices and taking very large amounts of vitamins. And in less than 2 weeks, he was out of his wheelchair and walking around the backyard using a walker. Now you might think that's not exactly cure. But if you've spent any time in a wheelchair, there's a huge difference between getting around on your own with a walker and not getting around at all. This was a surprise to me at the time, but it's not a surprise to me anymore. I was giving a lecture some time ago, and a lovely woman came up afterward and said, "I traveled a long way to be here today just so I could thank you. My son had multiple sclerosis, and I followed that Quenner protocol, and my son is well, and I want to thank you for doing that for me." Now, I was delighted, but I reminded her that I didn't do anything. Dr. Quenner is the brains of the outfit. I'm just telling you about his work. In my opinion, your doctor should be telling you that. So this woman was thanking me for something that she and her son did based on what Dr. Quenner said. And that's what I do. I'm here to take the knowledge that's already been done and make it available to you now so you can help yourself and your family. The first course I ever taught was in 1976. It was called Forgotten Research in Medicine. 30 years, 37 years, 38 years later, I'm doing the same thing. I love my work. I love helping people get well. I have the greatest job in the world. I love it when people tune in, when they read the books, when they go to the website. I get the most marvelous reports from people, emails and such, telling me how they looked into it for themselves. They didn't take my word for it. You shouldn't. Don't believe me. Check and see for yourself. That was Linus Pauling's advice. Have you noticed something interesting about people that are down on Linus Pauling? Every critic of Linus Pauling seems to have 2 fewer Nobel Prizes than Dr. Pauling did.
Very good. Andrew, let me interject there. It's coming close to the end of our time. The questions that are highest at the moment, apart from ones which are saying, "Wow, this is really Dr. Saul, thank you so much for doing this." The first one says, "I'm overwhelmed by the number of vitamin brands available. I know you do not endorse anything, but do you have any advice on where to start looking for quality products?"
Yes. I suggest that you read labels, write to supplement companies, and make the comparison for yourself. If you look online, you can get a lot of information. I never give an endorsement. I don't tell you what brands I use. I don't recommend brands. I don't even imply what brands you want to use. I'm going to go back to the basics. 1, any vitamin is better than no vitamin. 2, higher doses are usually better than lower doses, and you get what you pay for. 3, natural is usually better than synthetic. Vitamin C, of course, is an example of where it does not matter. Vitamin E as an eddy is an example where it matters a lot. If you use my books and my website, I think you'll find that there's a lot of guidance there. I have an article called Tablet Taking Tactics, how to find out what's in vitamins, how to get kids to take vitamins. We talk about excipients and fillers and binders and chewables and liquid forms and powders. So this information on what vitamin to get is a question that I'm going to hand right back to you. That decision you have to make for yourself.
Absolutely fascinating. I got to say that I wish this could go on much longer because it's been a fascinating exercise. Two more questions for you, I'm afraid, because there's a tie for second place and I don't want to be getting emails from people. So the first one is, are all kinds of sugar bad for you? This is of interest to me because I've had my depression, actually, Andrew, as I discussed with you, I think is triggered by white sugar. This person's asking, are all kinds of sugars bad for you? I know white sugar is a major no-no, but what about fructose, stevia, honey, and so on?
Are all forms of sugar bad for you? The short answer is yes. Now, when we say sugar, we're assuming that you mean something that you would cook with or add, not natural sugars found in foods. Quite frankly, if I drink a 16-ounce glass of orange juice, it flips me out like a candy bar. So even fruit sugars can be pretty intense. Many people are concerned about the sugar content of vegetable juices, say beet juice or carrot juice. It's really not that high, and I think it's hard to criticize beets and carrots, but they have a relatively high glycemic index, which means that you might want to go more towards the leafy greens. However, if everybody stopped drinking soda pop and started drinking carrot juice, the amount of sugar we took in would go down. Sugar is not your friend. Whatever your problem is, sugar will make it worse, no matter what kind of sugar it is. However, there's hope. When my kids were little and they would come around for something sweet, I would give them a teaspoon of raw honey. That really shut them up. It's very satisfying. Natural sugars tend to have a self-limiting effect on the appetite. Try to eat 2 handfuls of raisins. Try to eat a 1/4 cup of raw honey. I don't think you can do it. But I know from the old days that I can put down half a box of chocolates. I could eat half a pound of chocolate at a clip.
Yeah.
A lot of people have that issue.
Yeah.
So sugar is basically a bad idea. Lower your sugar intake as much as you can.
Okay. And final question for this evening. Is there a rebound effect if I were to accidentally drop from 6,000 milligrams of vitamin C to 600 milligrams? I remember Linus Pauling mentioning it in one of his books.
The short answer is no. If you went from 6,000 to nothing, that would be an effect, but I'm not even sure that's a rebound effect. Imagine you had a job where you made $6,000 a week and you were fired and you went down to $0 a week. Your problem isn't money. Your problem is a lack of money. So if you take 6,000 milligrams of vitamin C and you then go to 0, you have to ask yourself this question. Do you feel lucky? Why would you stop taking vitamin C? If 6,000 is working, why stop? You know, it's funny how many questions just bring out what we already know. If we use common sense, we'll find that good health makes a lot of sense. It doesn't make a lot of dollars, but it makes a lot of sense. So with vitamin C, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If you're healthy, taking the level of vitamin C you're taking, stay there. When you get sick, you're obviously not healthy. So take enough C to be symptom-free. As you recover, you'll get to bowel tolerance sooner. The dose is self-adjusting. Do what works.
Excellent. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you for taking the time tonight to share everything with us. Folks, if you want to join us on our next webinar, please make sure that you're on our email list. You can join that at www.andrewsaul.com, and you can go to Facebook as well. Just search for Andrew Saul and you will find the page there. Andrew, I'll just go back to you to let you say goodbye to people and give them one last piece of advice, if you don't mind.
All right. If I were to give you one piece of health advice that I would like you to remember, and I've said this to my students now for decades, it would be this. There was a TV show back in the 60s, late 50s, called Leave It to Beaver. Very popular. I grew up with it. And the father in the program, Ward Cleaver, would have little talks with his son and teach him things. And once Beaver had been given bad advice by his friends, and there was a lot of peer pressure on him, and he talked to his father about it, and his father said, a lot of people spend their whole life trying to convince you that something that's good for you is wrong. Don't make that mistake. Look into it for yourself.
Very good. Andrew, thank you once again. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us, and please stay in touch. Watch out for the next webinar, and hopefully we'll get some questions in there and yours will be one of the ones answered. Thank you once again, and good night.